Good morning, CaneSport. It's August the 21st, 2023. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined once again this morning by the people's favorite, the man of the Canes Nation. I don't even know what to say anymore. Matt Shodell, our managing editor, as we discuss the news of the day. And today, Matt, I thought we would do something a little different. Of course, we have a whole lineup of stories that are on the website. Talk about some of that a little bit in a minute. But one of the things we do have on the website are 5 bold predictions for the season. And it's now 21 days since they started training camp. Obviously, we were starting to get a feel for what this team is going to look like. We've been reporting a lot of it on the website, certain things that, the program is not crazy that we divulge. So we have to tiptoe through some of that. But I think we feel fairly comfortable in talking a little bit about how we are starting to see this season unfold. And I'll just go through them a little bit. We'll discuss them. I'm going to start with the first prediction, which is that Tyler Van Dyke is going to throw more than 30 touchdowns this year and then head to the NFL. And it's funny because I taped a segment on 3 Roundtable segment with JD Pakel the other day, and this was one of the things we talked about. And I said that I wasn't assuming that TVD was going to the pros. And the reason for that is he's coming from a little bit off the radar. People, for whatever reason, are dismissing him. He is not considered one of the top quarterbacks in the country by all the pundits that are putting out their lists of top quarterbacks going into the season. But we're a little closer to things. And I think that you and I have a little bit of an understanding that this is the same TVD that everybody was trumpeting as a first-round draft pick a year ago, that was talking about maybe he could squeeze into the Heisman race. And he has not disappointed one bit in fall practice. And that is why this morning we are going out on the limb and we're saying that this is a quarterback that is going to throw for more than 30 touchdowns this year.
Well, I mean, I don't know what happened. I wrote the story, but I guess I got edited. Originally I wrote Tyler Van Dyke doesn't throw 30 touchdowns and doesn't go to the NFL. And somebody took those out of the story and rewrote the whole thing. So, I mean, if you say he's going to write it, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason in this offense, just seeing what he can do when he's healthy and sort of has done when he's healthy 2 years ago, what he has done when he's happy in an offense, which he did 2 years ago. He's not going to tell you this, but he was vastly unhappy with last year's offense. He was vastly unhappy with somebody who perhaps was calling the plays last year. The personality clash was bad. It was just bad in the room. It wasn't good. I mean, there was a lot of yelling. There was, a quarterback's coach that was telling them different things than the coordinator was telling them. It was a mess. It was a mess. That's all gone. And it's funny, Gary. Do you remember when I told you early last season, I said, I don't like the idea of a coordinator being the wide receivers coach. I like the idea of a coordinator being a quarterback's coach. And that's it. Either be a coordinator and a quarterback's coach or just a coordinator, not some other position, and it's better to be the quarterback's coach. And you disagreed with me, by the way, back then. You're like, it doesn't matter. They look at these other coaches do that. But again, I was right. Shocking. The one time I was right was that.
You claim victory on that subject. I think Josh Gaddis, the guy that was executing that, had a little something to do with it. And I think the disconnect between Josh Gaddis and Frank Ponce had a little something to do with it. And I think the fact that Tyler Van Dyke never felt connected really at all also had something to do with that.
Yeah, it was a confluence of factors for sure. But it just makes sense. And I'm glad now that the quarterback's coach is the coordinator. It's one voice telling them the same thing over and over again. Tyler, nobody ever talks about this, but Tyler studies film just as much as Cam Kinchen studies film. Cam Kinchen gets all the glory because, a coach mentions that he was in the film room at 11 p.m. I mean, Tyler Van Dyke, nobody studies film or enjoys studying film, by the way, more than Tyler Van Dyke. He loves studying film. Like, he'll tell you that. Most of these guys, they'll study film, but they don't want to study film. He actually enjoys it. Some people hate playing chess. They find it a chore. I personally enjoy playing chess. He enjoys this type of work. It's almost like a puzzle that he's putting together. You watch an opponent, you see what they do, you see their system, you figure out how your system matches against their system, where the holes are, where the weaknesses are. It is like chess. People say all the time, play chess, not checkers, and why is our coach playing checkers and not chess? It really is a chess match, and Tyler Van Dyke's a master at this. The only reason why this offense would fail this year is going to be personnel, because he needs guys to be open and he needs guys to catch the ball. And there have still been drops in the fall, no matter how many jugs machines balls they're catching in the offseason. There's still been drops. I mean, noticeable drops, like dumb drops, like balls that I would catch, with no even defenders on the field. It's inexcusable. It's concentration issues. There are definitely still lapses here and there, which is okay. It's fall camp, but you don't want to see them pop up in the game. When the game comes along, you want to be on point. You want to be perfect, and that's what they need to do, and that's what they need to show in starting with game 1. And today we're going to hear from Mario. We're going to hear from players. They wanted a blackout on the scrimmage 2 news. And from what you hear, I mean, the run defense still is a concern from everything I hear. So that's something that I think is going to be an issue that really needs to be resolved, especially heading into game 2, which is the big game to me. I mean, Miami, Ohio, if you don't beat Miami, Ohio by 3 touchdowns, then whatever. Like, you don't deserve to really be in the top 49. The AP voters would have been right. But listen, Tyler Van Dyke, I think it's going to be a much better offense. My concern's on the defensive side, not on the offensive side. And there's no reason that Tyler shouldn't be a quarterback who throws that many touchdowns, period. I mean, in this kind of offense. You muted yourself. Maybe you should always do that, actually. I think it's better this way. No, I shouldn't have told you. Never mind. Yes, Gary, continue.
I'm sorry about that. I had a cough before.
It was much better that way.
But no, so to have good run defense, like what you're talking about, you got to get great play up the middle. So remember what you're counting on here. You're counting on Leonard Taylor to be an every down force, which is something he has never been in his career. Okay, and then you're counting on a second defensive tackle that also has never been that at any point in their career. Whether Branson Dean, he was he shared playing time at Purdue. Harrison Hunt has just been an average player at Miami. Reuben Bain, who everyone expects to become a defensive tackle, I mean, you think you're going to roll him out there for 40, 50 plays as a true freshman and that he's going to hold up for a football season? There's no chance, everybody. So it's a little bit of a problem.
You're so negative, guy. Why are you so negative? You're bringing me down.
I'm keeping it real. Like, there are going to be times this year, depending on the matchups they have on game day, where the run defense is going to be a problem. Let's be honest. All right. So that I just wanted to make that comment based on what you just said a minute ago. But getting back now to this Tyler Van Dyke prediction, if we're going to do a prediction, little fun story, we're not going to throw freaking nonsense out there. Okay. This is a real prediction, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay. No Miami Hurricane quarterback in the history of the program has ever thrown for more than 30 touchdowns in a season. The record at UM is 29 by Steve Walsh.
Isn't that amazing?
Okay, so if we are going to predict that Tyler Van Dyke is going to do this, he will be the first in the history of the program to ever throw for that many touchdowns in a season. So that's that would make it a pretty monumental accomplishment. And the other thing I'm going to throw out there is that last year there were only 13 quarterbacks in all of college football that threw for 30 or more touchdown passes. So we're cheering for TVD. We think the old TVD is back. I mentioned in the segment I taped the other day with JD Piquel that he does not have Charleston Rambo this year. And that's an issue. Rambo had a hell of a season a couple years ago. Other guys are going to have to step up. There's signs Colby Young is going to step up. There's signs that Jacoby George will step up. Xavier Restrepo is healthy. I still think Ray Joseph is going to put a stamp on this season. So they got guys that can catch the ball and do things. Shannon Dawson's going to have to dial up some plays. But we'll go ahead and make that prediction just for the fun of it now that TVD will have his 30 touchdown passes. All right, another one. Mark Fletcher is going to start at least 6 games this year, and he will lead the team in rushing yards. And remember, Henry Parrish is still there. Jay Allen has been looking unbelievable so far in fall camp. So, and Don Chaney is probably performing well enough to where he doesn't deserve to be totally dismissed. So it's probably going to be a little bit of running back by committee, Matt. But Mark Fletcher seems to me to be the running back that Miami wants and needs. I remember a couple years ago when he was, I think, a 10th grader, and we were at a recruiting event, and we first really looked at him up close. And I remember saying to you, that kid is going to be a must-get recruit. Well, they were able to get him. Now he's going to be a major part of the offense. We're predicting he starts 6 games this year. Might be realistic.
This is what annoys me. I predict this. This is not in this story, but this is my prediction. I predict that Henry Parrish starts in game 1. And I predict that coaches realize fairly quickly that he should not be the starter anymore. Why I would know that after having not watched them, because they shut down practice for viewing recently, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. But mark my words, Henry Parrish will start in game 1, and by game 5, it'll be Mark Fletcher starting, or maybe a Jay Allen, because they're going to realize we got better than this. Why? If that actually happens, that would just annoy me to no ends, because I should have no business predicting something like that. That shouldn't be the truth. They should just start the best guy from game 1. But Henry Parrish, he started in a totally different offense last year, but you know what? He started. And he can run a little bit, and he can catch a little bit, and he's quick enough, and he does good enough stuff, and he's a decent enough, he's not a great blocker, but he's good enough. And, that's just, coaches love this sort of thing. I'm not a fan of it. So yeah, honestly, if I was rewriting this, I would maybe say Mark Fletcher or a Jay Allen starts 6+ games, because to me, there's no way that Henry Parrish is going to be the guy all year. I mean, he's just not. He's not the power back that Mario loves. He was not great last year. He was the 4th string guy at Ole Miss before he came here last year, when they really had nobody else, because Jalen Knighton was hurt the first few games. Then he was fumbling the ball constantly. Thaddeus Franklin was the other guy, and he was behind a walk-on. I mean, there was nobody else last year. Now they got some guys. And obviously Trevante Citizen was hurt last year too, obviously, and he's still hurt. So yeah, that's where that comes from. I think they need better than what we saw Henry Parrish could do. Do you remember how many tackles Henry Parrish broke last year, Gary?
I don't have a number, but I don't remember it being
wasn't his longest run. I want to say I don't think he had a run of more than 20 yards. I think Ja'Carri Brown had a long run than Henry Parrish. And that's not a joke. I'm 99% sure. I'll check it out while you share your thoughts, and I'll get back on you.
All right, you go ahead and check that out. In the meantime, I'm going to move on to the next subject that we came up with, and that is that James Williams is going to have 10+ tackles for loss. And this is built around the fact that James Williams has embraced the role that he is going to have in the defense this year, and that he is going to be moving around between the secondary and very often is going to be brought down into the box to be a scheme beast for new defensive coordinator Lance Guidry. And we have talked about this for several years. I've taken the heat from some of the usual characters on our message board. Oh, Gary, you're always wanting to change people's positions, blah, 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 blah. Well, there's been no doubt in my mind that James Williams has no chance to be a safety, or let's not say no. Let's say that he has little chance to be a safety at the next level in the National Football League. And his best ticket is to be a hybrid type of linebacker safety that you can utilize his skill set for schematic purposes. And this year, it's something that he's resisted in years past. It has been a taboo subject. People have been afraid that James Williams would transfer if you push the envelope there. Not too dissimilar to what's going on right now with the backup quarterback. And so it was like a touchy subject. Well, it's not a touchy subject anymore. James Williams is totally on board. And James Williams on board to being used schematically the way Lance Guidry will want to do that becomes an absolute threat and a high probability of having 10+ tackles for loss this season. Matt, your thoughts?
Okay, well, first I'll do the running back thing. So just to put this in perspective, Henry Parrish had 130 carries last year. He had a long run of 24 yards. Jalen Knighton had a long run of 56 yards on 78 carries. Ja'Carri, 40-yard long run. Thaddeus Franklin had a long run of 26 yards. Think about that. Thaddeus Franklin had a longer long run last year, all season, than Henry Parrish all season.
Means nothing. Mop-up time.
It's bizarre. I mean, Lucius Stanley in 19 carries had a long of 14. Terrell Walden in 6 carries had a long of 15. Devon Perry had a long of 17 yards and 5 carries. I mean, to have a long run of 24 yards and 130 attempts, I'd have to look at other stats on other teams, but I have to think that's towards the bottom of the country. I mean, it's hard to only have a 24-yard run as your longest run all year when you ran 130 times. Anyway, that's, I guess, neither here nor there. I mean, look, I don't want people saying don't bash Henry Parrish, but like, these are just stats. These are just truths. You know, I think Miami can do better. It's okay to say that. It's not anything about him as a person. Really a great guy. And he's certainly talented enough. It's just, I think there's guys who are better and who can do better. Anyway, moving on to James Williams. My only caveat with James, it was disheartening to see him as a backup because we all know what that means. When he didn't start with the starting unit, everyone else was the starters at that spring scrimmage, that first fall scrimmage that was open to the public. We all know what that means. He showed up late. He broke a rule. He did something really not good, you know, and everyone else did what they were supposed to except for James. And my whole thing with James this whole offseason is he has to have his head on straight. He can't keep making stupid penalties. He can't keep making stupid decisions. He can't keep trying to tackle the wrong way. He can't keep trying to freelance. And it's like, why? You know, I don't like, you know, I'm not going to, if I had the details of what James did, I wouldn't say it, but I don't in this case. A lot of times we do know these things, we don't say them. In this case, I have no idea what he did. But whatever it was, you know, it's not good. It's not good for a guy like James who's had these issues in the past. And that's the only thing that's going to hold him back from hitting that prediction, because he has to, whatever they have done to make sure his head's on straight, it didn't seem to work for that first fall scrimmage. And I don't know if he's going to get this message either, because they've tried stuff before. I know that. They've tried stuff before to get him to do the way they want him to do things, and he hasn't. He's resisted it. He resisted being a linebacker forever, right? So now it's like, now the next piece, he's agreed to be a linebacker, essentially. Now the next piece is, well, do what you're supposed to do, like on and off the field. Do what you're supposed to do. And apparently that hasn't taken yet. So this could be a little messy. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's time. I mean, you know, you can't be babysitted anymore at his stage of his career. It's like, you know, do the right things, be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, be accountable on the football field, period. So we'll see how that one goes. Another one that we have, and this one is going out on a limb a little bit, and maybe
the last two are both going out on a limb a little bit.
Well, maybe we're buying into some hype here. No argument. I'll take the blame for it because I'm supposed to be the hype machine of this CaneSport operation, and Matt Shodell is supposed to be the naysayer. So
no, I'm the realist. You're the one with your head in the clouds. I'm the normal, real person. What are you talking about? I'm not a naysayer.
I get
Nobody wants to be happier than me.
I read the comments posted on YouTube and on our message boards by your legion of fans. I know what you are.
Don't listen to my mother.
I know what you're supposed to be. I know what they believe that you are, whether it's fantasy, truth, you know, it doesn't really matter. But so I'll go out on the limb here and take responsibility for this one. But Nigel Kelly leading the team in sacks. Now, here's the thing. Nigel Kelly, it doesn't matter who you talk to in the football program. They are expecting this kid to emerge this year as a superstar. Okay. Jason Taylor has taken him under his wing. He's getting an enormous amount of the highest quality coaching you can get. He has been pegged for this status and this role from the minute that he stepped into the program. Okay. So he's expected to be a pass rusher this year. Certainly not going to get any arguments from me. Does he lead the team in sacks? I mean, it could end up being Ruben Bain, who I feel pretty certain will be out there in passing situations. It could be Messidor, who will certainly be out there in pass rush situations. But we're going on them saying it's going to be Nigel Kelly because we are told, because we haven't seen a lot of Nigel Kelly against live competition, and we won't really see that until we get into the season. But we have been told that this is coming from Nigel Kelly. Now, I have no reason to dispute it, Matt. When I think about Nigel Kelly, my fear is this, okay? How tough is he going to be here this season? When Florida State later in the year, for example, comes out and runs that same running play that they ran 30 times last year and just absolutely steamrolled Miami, how's he going to hold up in that situation, along with the rest of his teammates, quite frankly, because they got their butts kicked last year by Florida State. Every opponent on the schedule this year has watched that tape over and over and over again this summer, guaranteed. So I don't know. I forget what you call the damn running play, whether it was a tackle pulling counter or whatever you call it. Well, whatever that play was and the style of running play that it is, you're going to see it in almost every game this season, and you're going to see teams challenge Miami to stop it. And I feel pretty certain if when we get to Tallahassee later in the season, they're going to run it another 30 times because of what it meant to their steamrolling of the Hurricanes last season. So to me, you got a young defensive end who's trying to be a superstar, who has all this raw physical ability. I'm not worried about his pass rush. Okay, yeah, he might lead the team in sacks. How is he going to hold up against the run, Matt? That is the great unknown with Nigel E. Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no doubt about it. I mean, it seems fairly obvious that he's either the third or fourth best defensive lineman behind Messidor, LT, and arguably Ruben Bain, just based on how good Bain looks as a true freshman. And Jafari Harvey probably isn't that far behind him either. But the reason why, and look, again, I wrote the story. Gary signed off on it for the most part. The reason why I put that in there as a prediction is because the way I think is I don't just think, okay, well, the best defensive lineman's going to have the most sacks because Messidor led the team in sacks last year. He'll lead them again this year. That seems fairly obvious that should happen. The reason I think that a guy like Nigel Kelly will lead the team in sacks, and honestly, if I had to put money on it, I would pick him. I'm not kidding. I didn't just make it up. Is because I think when opposing offenses, and this stretches back into the spring, I mean, opposing offensive coordinators have been looking at Miami film since the spring. Every opponent, they've been breaking it down. They all are going to be game planning to stop Messidor and to some extent Leonard Taylor. They're not thinking about a guy who was a freshman last year who played limited reps and did fairly well, but who was battling in fall camp to be a starter. Like, that's not a guy they were focusing on trying to figure out how to stop. So I think he's going to have a lot of opportunities for matchups with offensive linemen without help from a running back or being chipped by a tight end or whatever the case may be, where he'll just be one-on-one in a lot of situations, especially early in the year until he really proves himself, which I think he will. And I think he'll have a lot of opportunities for sacks. And even after that, I think he's good enough as a pass rusher to, even if they start trying to figure out, hey, how do we also get a hand on him once in a while? The focus will still be on LT and Messidor. Like, he's the third best defensive lineman, but that's going to leave him open for a tremendous amount of plays in the offensive backfield, which is why I think he'll lead the team in sacks.
All right, so that's the one. And then the last one that we touch on is also, we're sticking our necks out on this one. Like I said, this is not, like, we're not going to do a feature like this and just, like, throw softball nonsense out there. Like, we're taking some stances and some risks here. And we're going to predict on this one that Miami's going to beat either FSU or Clemson. Now, before you say, whoa, nobody thinks Miami's going to beat one of those teams, I wholeheartedly feel that this has got to be the season where this team beats somebody, okay? Like, Miami has not beaten anybody really in a long time. I mean, you could go back to 2017, the Notre Dame game, whatever, fine, if you want to lean on that. But, like, this program has not really beaten a lot of people since. And it's time to get back to that. And they should continue to develop as the season goes on. So we're going to stick our necks out there. We're going to say they're going to beat at least one team that they're expected to lose to this year. Got to make sure they don't lose one that they're supposed to win. That's been easier said than done lately as well. But we're going to go out on a limb and say that Miami's going to beat somebody this year. So make sure you check out that feature. It's pretty cool. And see if you agree with our opinions. If you do, if you don't, we still would love to hear your comments on the message boards at CaneSport.com, which brings me to our little commercial of the day. If you like this channel, like this show, hit your subscribe button, hit your like button. It helps us with the algorithms at YouTube. And if you are not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, please hop on over to our site. Join our community of Canes fans. We got a great community, and your subscriptions allow us to do what we do every single day, and we wholeheartedly appreciate every single one of them. Okay, I'm going to touch on some of the other things that are on the website today. As Matt, I think, mentioned earlier, we'll be catching up with Mario Cristobal this morning and several other players to talk about the final fall scrimmage on Friday and other topics. So make sure you're on the website as the day goes forward. Around midday, you'll get all that news. You can, if you missed my segment with JD Piquel over the weekend, that's on the website. You can check that out as well. And then we got the usual large assortment of recruiting updates that we encourage you to check out. I won't go through every one of them right now, but there's several of them, and there'll be more coming, obviously, as the day and the week go forward. But make sure that you check out all of our recruiting coverage today. We also touch on basketball, where the Miami Hurricanes are shaping up as one of the teams that are considered to have a meaningful chance this year to make a national title run. So make sure you check that out as well. So that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. We wholeheartedly appreciate you guys starting out your day with us, and hope that you'll do it again tomorrow. I'm sure we'll be back with another Good Morning CaneSport show. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. You guys have a great day, everybody.